Hello, welcome to the comeback seat, Gabe.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and today's guest is Gabe Johansen, and I've known him through my stepdad for many years, but not really met you formally. And then about 6 months ago, I wanted to do real estate out of state, and we got together, and I was introduced to you, and it was I learned a lot, and here we are today on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I love your stepdad, by the way.
I
Bill's
know.
one of my favorite people in the whole world.
He is.
What a great guy he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be doing life without him, and he is pretty dang amazing, and he speaks highly of you, and you guys can have him on your podcast.
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay, let's get real.
Okay.
Let's get to business.
All right. What do you want to know?
You are in the seat today.
All right.
So, what I want to know is, I hear that you are in recovery for alcohol, I'm assuming.
And drugs.
Alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
What was your drug of choice?
Oh boy, I can't list them all.
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
Meth, cocaine. Let's
Okay.
leave it there.
Okay, so alcohol, meth, cocaine, probably dabbled into some others, but we'll leave it there. And can you tell me when you first started this addiction?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of backstory. I kind of say that my life, there's been a general theme to my life, and it's always revolved around alcohol, actually. So when I was 5 years old, my brother died in a car accident drinking and driving, 17 years old.
Okay.
As people out there who have lost children or lost family members, they know that changes a family forever. And so, my mom was not the same person after that. My dad at that time had a really hard time coping with that loss, and he started drinking heavily. He became alcoholic.
Okay.
And so I grew up in an alcoholic home, and alcohol just kind of followed me everywhere I went. So as a kid, I ended up in Alateen. Have you ever heard of Alateen?
No, what is Alateen?
So Alateen is like Al-Anon for kids. So the Al-Anon program is not for the addict and the alcoholic, it's for the family members and the people that are affected by it. And so oftentimes, they call it codependency. The codependent can become addicted to the alcoholic or the drug addict.
Okay.
And that's a really important thing to know, because addiction is a family disease. It's something that affects everybody. It's one of those things where, like most diseases kill you, but alcoholism and drug addiction kill you and everyone else around you at the same time. So it's a really horrible, insidious thing. So I went to Alateen as a kid, and so I was never going to drink. I was going to be one of those people who just didn't want to play with fire. And I was told from the time I was just a young boy that I probably shouldn't dabble in drugs and alcohol, because I very well could have that gene, which I do. And so I went through life with my dad drinking. He got sober when I was about 16 years old, and my life took a dramatic change when I turned 17. When I was 17, I met my first wife. We were high school sweethearts.
Okay.
She got pregnant. We got married, and we had our first child as my senior year of high school. I got married in between my junior and senior year of high school.
Okay. Congratulations.
Probably not old enough to make that decision.
Right.
But we thought we were old enough to make that decision, and we did. Like many marriages that start that young, it didn't last very long. And in my early 20s, I was about 22 years old when we ended up getting divorced. And that was, for me, the turning point where, I looked at my life and I said, man, I never imagined that I was going to be here with, I had two little kids at that point. I'm going through a divorce. This is not how I had imagined life. And on top of that, I had FOMO. I felt like all my friends had got to go off to college and party and date and do all these things. And I had skipped all that. And I went and bought a house and had a job and raised a family. And then, and still ended up getting divorced. And so I decided at that point in my life I was going to reinvent myself as a wild party animal.
Oh gosh, at age 22.
I wanted to make up for lost time. Boy, did I make up for lost time. So
Were you working at the car lot?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're kind of like, look at me, I'm on commercials.
Yeah, so people who don't know my backstory, my dad owned a Nissan dealership here in town. I worked on that car lot for over 20 years. And the car business is notorious for kind of just having that party lifestyle around it. So
100%.
It's you attract, especially in sales and that type of industry, you attract a lot of addictive personalities. So I grew up around that. But yeah, I ended up getting sober when I was 28 years old. That was almost 22 years ago. So my sobriety date is April 4th, 2004, 444. And so, God willing, and I make it, I do this thing one day at a time, but if I get to April 4th this year, I'll have 22 years of sobriety, and it's an absolute miracle. There's no reason for me to be alive. By the time I was 28, I felt like, I think somewhere inside you, there's a little voice that tells you when you're nearing the end. And for me, at 28 years old, that voice was talking to me saying I wasn't going to be around much longer. So I didn't think I would see my 30th birthday.
Oh,
and
wow.
I recently turned 50.
Yeah.
So I say that I cheated death.
Yeah,
I got a bonus 20 years out of this thing. So every day for me is just an absolute gift, and it's an honor to be alive and to be able to do the things that I'm doing today. But yeah, I went through that period of time. I didn't drink for that long. I mean, I was really only out for, it was probably more like 7 or 8 years. We partied a little bit before I got divorced, and that was kind of the impetus to our divorce. But more from her side than mine. I didn't really go off the deep end until I went through that divorce. And so I ended up getting married again, and my second wife, she had a mission that she was going to get me sober. And so that was kind of in my second marriage. That was the theme. Is for the first several years I was still partying.
How old were you when you got married?
So we got married. Gosh, it was not too long after. I was probably almost 25 years old when I got married the second time.
So you're still partying. She's trying to fix you, and now you're kind of rebelling and trying to be fixed.
Yeah. So I brought up the codependency part, and so alcoholics have an uncanny ability to attract codependents to them. Somebody to come in and clean up the pieces and kind of dust you off and clean up your wounds and keep you going. And so that's what she was for me. And unfortunately, after I got sober, she wasn't into me so much anymore, and so she left. And so I ended up getting divorced again. Married the third time. Third time was a charm with Jan, and you got to interview Jan on your podcast today.
Yes.
And
in your studio.
Yeah, Jan is just the most amazing person I've ever met. So I'm really blessed to have her in my life.
Now, were you drinking when you and Jan?
No, I had already been sober for several years.
Okay.
So Jan's never witnessed me in action before.
Oh, okay. Okay. So take us back to a night in action, if you don't mind. You said nothing's off limits. So
Sure.
Were you ever pulled over? Were you ever arrested? Any of that? Or did you just...
So I'm what they call a functional alcoholic. I ran a business, dressed nice, drove nice cars and did all this stuff, and nobody was telling me to get sober. So, one of the benefits in our society today is usually you go out and screw something up, you wreck a car, you get a DUI, you do something stupid, and either a judge or a cop or, somebody stops you from doing what you're doing. I was quite a bit smarter about my partying, and somehow I got away with it for a long time. And nobody ever told me really that I should stop. Mm. And my story for me, I didn't go to rehab, but I got to the point where I was scared. And the way I like to say it, I finally got to the point where I was more scared of dying than I was of living, because that's really what addiction is it's running from reality. And so I got to that point where I realized no one's going to stop me, and I'm going to die. And it scared me enough to step into an AA meeting for the first time. And I got to say, I went to a meeting here in town. It was a group of guys that it was an attorneys group of all things. And these guys were twice my age or more. I knew none of them, had very little in common probably with almost anybody in the room. But what was interesting was, for me, I felt love in that room for the first time in my life. I had certainly been loved. My parents loved me. It wasn't that I wasn't loved, but there's this thing about love where you have to be able to accept it. And if you don't feel like anybody really knows you, then it's hard to accept their love. And I walked into that room, and those guys all knew who I was because I was them. Mm. And they showed me love. They put their arms around me and they said, "Hey, we're gonna help you do this thing. We'll do it together, one day at a time." And it was life changing for me. It was like the way I describe it is I feel like I was an alien wandering the planet, and it was like my spaceship came and picked me up, and I found my people. I finally was around people who understood who I was, what kind of things were going on in my head. But you asked a question about what a night looked like for me, and I don't remember most of them. From the very first time I ever drank, I was a blackout drunk, and so I would literally start drinking and I would stop until I was passed out. It was almost like nothing was going to stop me. I would actually sometimes pray before I started drinking that would be the night that I would leave the bar in an ambulance or a cop car, just so that somebody would tell me, it's time to stop. Like I wanted somebody. Why
do you think you were numbing yourself all the time? Was it because of the accident? Was it because of your...
No, for me, it started as, I think, just coping with life, trying to take life on life's terms without filtering it through drugs and alcohol it's a scary thing. And, coping with that divorce, I had 2 little kids, split family. I had a lot of responsibility on my plate at a young age. And I think it was just too much. It was just, I was not man enough at that point in my life to take life straight on. And so one of the guys in my original group that I walked into that I told you about, he used to say that I don't want to filter my life through mind altering drugs. I want to take life straight up. And that was kind of a romantic saying that stuck with me, where I thought to myself, like, yeah, I want to take life straight up. The thing is taking life straight up is hard.
Yeah. To face reality without numbing it and facing it.
You got to face it every single day. And without God, none of this would be possible. I didn't have the power to get sober on my own. I was convinced that there was nothing that would be able to get me sober. I was convinced because there was probably 3 or 4 years that I went to a therapist. I wanted to stop. I couldn't stop. That's the scary part, when you get to the point where you go, I think I might have a problem, and I should probably get some help, and I should probably stop doing this. And then you keep doing it, and then you realize you're not the one in control anymore. There's something else that has control. So it's interesting because in Alcoholics Anonymous and most recovery programs, you turn your will and your life over to a higher power, the care, into the care of God as you understand Him. And a lot of people have a problem with that, like, how do I turn my life over to a higher power? But what I realized is that I had been turning my life over to a higher power for a long time. It just wasn't God. It was the bag and the bottle. I had given my life up to drugs and alcohol. So
you were dealing with the devil. And
dealing with the devil.
But now, when did you decide, I'm going to go step it up and do cocaine or meth? Did you have a drug dealer in town? Do you want to give the name out?
I got your phone number. That's funny. No, for me, I think, one of the things I'll say is I believe that alcohol is a drug. I think it's the most dangerous drug available to us today, and partially because it's just so readily acceptable and readily available. So it's part of our culture. It's part of everything we do. It's in every restaurant. To me, it's at most social gatherings, holidays, so on and so forth. So alcohol is just always there. Drugs are a little more of an underworld sort of thing. You've got to kind of open up the hatch and go into a dark place. And for me, that happened. People talk about marijuana being the gateway drug. For me, alcohol was certainly the gateway drug. It didn't take much alcohol for me to be willing to do anything, which makes me really grateful that I'm not partying today, because there's a lot of stuff out there that will just kill you.
Sure.
And the way I do drugs and drink, like, I would just die the first day because somebody handed me something and I'd be like, well, I don't want one, give me 5. That's just, if one's good, 10 is better. And it has fentanyl in it or something. Yeah. So I feel super grateful that I wasn't partying during that era, because I would have been one of the statistics. But alcohol, for me, the way my body metabolizes it is it really amps me up, and so it's like drinking Red Bulls or something. And so I could drink and drink and drink and drink, and at some point you get to a point where there's a diminishing return on that, and your body can't take it anymore. And so that's where drugs got introduced. It was more of a need to keep partying, stay awake. Cocaine is kind of like the reset switch. You get too high, you get too drunk, you get whatever, and you do some coke, and it kind of puts you back to ground zero again. And so I used it as a way to keep the party going. And for me, I became polyaddicted, meaning that I had multiple addictions. So I could not drink without cocaine, and I couldn't do cocaine without drinking at all. Had to go hand in hand.
This is a very expensive habit, I'm thinking.
It wasn't inexpensive. Yeah.
And you talked about therapy. Were you embarrassed to go get therapy, or you just didn't want it as a priority? Were you, as a man, as a father, were you timid, or what?
No, my mom actually was the one that suggested after one night. I don't know, something happened. I didn't come home that night. My wife at the time called her and said, "Hey, Gabe didn't come home last night." And my mom suggested to me that I should probably go into therapy. And I met with this guy, beautiful Jewish man, Mike Beaver. I'll say his name. I love this guy. And we met every week. And this is an interesting part of the story. I would go to his office every week, kind of like late morning around my kind of lunchtime or something like that. And I sat with him for about 4 years. And at the end of every one of our sessions, he would look at me and he would say, "Gabe, I think you shouldn't be in this office. You should be downstairs." And what's interesting is that meeting I told you about of attorneys was in the same building, downstairs.
Oh, no.
And the meeting was actually going on while I was upstairs talking to him. So I wanted help, but I was like, I haven't. It's not that bad. It's like it's bad, but it's like me and you, Mike. We got this. We're going to figure this out. I'm going to find a way to get sober. And it's funny. I always say that if I could just drill a hole in the floor and put my ear down and would have been able to listen to that meeting, I would have known like that's where my people are. But I wasn't ready yet. It wasn't my time to.
It wasn't your path. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up getting sober in the same building that I was going to therapy in. It just was on a different floor. And he was right. It's where I needed to be. And, I'd pop in. I don't talk to him anymore, but I used to pop in every year when I'd get my coin, and I'd take it up and celebrate with him and tell him, like, hey, thanks for putting me in the right place. And it took him 4 years to get me to go, but I finally went, and it worked. Yeah.
And you were pretty reliable, or you were consistent with him.
Yeah. I really enjoyed therapy. I would recommend it to anybody. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed about. To be honest with you, I think everybody probably could use some level of counseling. I think that it's really important to be able to sit down with somebody that you trust and be able to share, what's going on in your life and things that you need help with. And really what I was doing was it was a cry for help. I was asking for help, and he was giving me all the help he could give, but he knew that he was not equipped to really fully help me with the problem that I had. It's an interesting thing about recovery is, we could raise billions of dollars and hire the best doctors from all over the world and build a huge, amazing facility. And we wouldn't get one more person sober, because it doesn't take facilities and doctors and money to get people sober. Sure. What it takes is one alcoholic to another, one drug addict to another, somebody who's been there, walked that road. And it's the reason why today if people reach out to me, and I actually will just say it on the podcast, if there's anybody out there that's struggling with addiction, drugs and alcohol, the door is open. I would love to sit down and spend some time with you. It's my highest purpose. I believe it's the reason why God kept me alive is to continue to help those who still are struggling with addiction. So,
what advice would you give them? Let's say I'm calling Gabe.
Well, it's funny. It would start with a lot of questions, but the advice is to give up. There's something beautiful that happens in that surrender where, for me, I'll just speak for myself. I felt like, well, I should be strong enough. I should have enough willpower to be able to overcome this. I mean, it's just a bottle of liquid. You know what I'm saying? Why can't I overcome this problem? Why do I have to ask for help? And
why do I want to go and do this temporary fix?
Yeah, I think just to be able to throw in the towel and go, I can't do it anymore. Like to be able to give up and say, I do not know how to live. I do not know how to cope with life. I need somebody to guide me. I need somebody to show me the way. You have to swallow your pride, and you got to be, you got to be humble. It's a defeating kind of part of life where you have to give up and say, I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And but there's just something that's so beautiful that happens on the other side of it. And I will say this is, I was raised in the church. I believed in God from a young age, and obviously, I went off on my own way, and I wasn't walking with God when I was doing these things. It's really a separator. Alcohol and drugs, it kind of makes you, it's a liar. It tells you it's going to bring you closer to that higher power. And it really is just a veil. It just separates you, puts up a wall between you and God. And so of all the things that I could have done, if there's 100 things you can do to try to get sober, I can tell you right now, I did all 99 of them. And the last thing on my list was to walk into an AA meeting. It wasn't like, oh, I heard AA is kind of cool. I want to go try it out. I knew about it because, my dad had been involved in 12-step. My mom had been in Al-Anon. I had been in Alateen. I was no stranger to recovery programs. But for me, I was just like, there is just no way that I'm going to go do that. And so I had to exhaust all efforts first to find out for myself that there wasn't going to be another way. And then, I walked into my first meeting, and as I'm sitting there, they're reading through the 12 steps and they're talking about their stories and stuff. And I thought to myself, like, I am such an idiot. Like I already know all these things. Right. I already know if I let go and let God and I give it to him, that he's going to take it. But it just...
Does this Celebrate Recovery?
I did do Celebrate Recovery, yeah. Okay. We do a recovery meeting on Sunday mornings at the State Farm office on South Liberty. I went to Celebrate Recovery for a number of years. And then the first meeting, though, that I went to was just I won't call it secular, but it was just an AA meeting.
And how did you hear about that AA meeting?
The AA meeting that I went to was the one that therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the one.
He's the one who just said.
He said, "You got this. Is where you need to be." Okay. He knew all those guys who were in the same building. And he would actually go down and tell them after our sessions. From time to time, he'd go tell them like, "Hey, I got a guy who's coming your way, and I keep telling him to come see you, and he's not ready yet, but I'm hoping someday he'll be ready."
So he was the one who gave you the tools to go down there.
Yeah, and I don't know that if it hadn't been suggested to me in that format that I would have done it. I don't know that I would have just opened up a book or a directory and tried to go find my own AA meeting, but it just happened to be those were the exact right people that I needed at that exact moment, and that program and those guys saved my life.
Now, do you still talk to? You said original, so OGs. Do you still talk to these? OGs?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them are very much part of my life today. As a matter of fact, one of my closest friends, Brent Colbert, we do our meeting at his office. I met him in that meeting. I met his closest friend, Brian Miles, who was also in the program. These, for anonymity purposes, we're not supposed to share each other's names, but we've all talked before, and we're open with sharing our stories together. So Brian was who owned SMI, and his wife Kathy, and so we went to Celebrate Recovery together. They actually set up some of the first Celebrate Recovery programs in Salem. They're what helped brought that program into the churches here in Salem, and so I met Brian through that program. We started doing a Bible study together, and one thing led to the next, and him and I became close friends and eventually partners, and I ended up buying the SMI companies from them.
Congratulations.
So when I traced my life back, every bad thing really that has happened to me in life, I can trace back to drugs and alcohol, and every good thing that I have in my life today, I can trace back to recovery. I mean, it's just between having Jan in my life and the companies and being involved in real estate and all the things I've done. It's all of my connections and my partners, and like it clearly God had a path for me, and this is the path he was planning. But it's amazing that I had to go through the hell that I went through, and that's really what it is. Being addicted, where that's all you can think about 24 hours a day is drugs and alcohol. It's a prison sentence, and it really is just it's hell on earth. I mean, it's a separation from God, and it's a very lonely, cold, miserable place to be, and to come out of that and be in the light and the sunlight of the Spirit and the warmth of the love of the fellowship and the things that we get out of this program. It's just my sobriety and the people that I've been able to be sober with have just been the most valuable thing in my life. It's by far my greatest success.
Now, did you lose some friendships along the way?
100%.
It's not a bad. So you lost some friendships, which is probably a good thing.
That's a great question. They say that the program is simple, but it's not easy. And what they mean is it's simple because all you have to do is change everything, which is not easy.
Right.
In my party days, I think I had an illusion that I had a lot of friends. Everywhere I went, I had people with me. I was a business guy. I was a Salem guy. Like, a lot of people knew who I was.
You were on commercials?
I was on TV commercials. I had maybe a little bit too much fame, Salem fame, maybe when I went in my youth. But I thought that I had all these friends. And, the reality is the friends that you have when you're drinking and using are not really true friends. I don't think. I mean, the drugs and alcohol is kind of what holds you together. It's kind of like a bad relationship that's held together by toxicity. Yeah. And so I had a lot of friendships and that I thought really, and these were not bad people. Some of them were my relatives, that we just partied together and stuff. But when I stopped partying, I found out later on that in the car dealership, they all went through and they made wagers as to how long I would stay sober. And so they didn't tell me about this until I'd been sober already for a few months. And they sat me down and they showed me the wagers that they had made. And it was really eye-opening because like the shortest bet was 1 day. There were people on that list that thought I couldn't stay sober for 1 day. The very longest person on the list was 1 month. They thought that was the longest that I'd be able to make it is 1 month. And these are the people I spent, 10, 12 hours a day with every single day working with that I hung out with all the time, the people that knew me best. And part of that was probably on their part, just wishful thinking because they didn't want to lose their party buddy. But when I got sober within just a couple of weeks, I would say my whole world completely changed. And many of those relationships, including an uncle that I had, who's now passed, we called him Uncle Tweaker, and everybody that was in the party world knew who this guy was. And he was a great guy, a good uncle, but he had been addicted to meth since he was a teenager. He was, at that time, probably in his 50s or maybe even.
What did he die from?
I don't know, but I would imagine just a life of
Hard knocks.
hard knocks. Yeah, for sure.
Are you tempted ever?
Sure. I mean, I don't know that I would use the word tempted.
What would you use?
Drugs and alcohol, it'll cross my mind from time to time. I think it's not the drugs and alcohol that I'm tempted from. It's when I have a rough patch or I have a bad day or there's something going on in life that's heavy. My first inclination, my instinct is to run. Like how do I get away from this feeling? And so the thought will be, it's usually not, I want to take a drink, but sometimes I'll think, gosh, regular people just get to go have a beer or a glass of wine right now and take the edge off. And I don't get to do that, dang it. So I would say that, it crosses my mind in the sense that I don't have that tool anymore. And it happens really quick. I play through it. We call it playing the tape. You think about, well, if I did take a drink, what would happen next? Well, I'd probably remember the number to my drug dealer 22 years later. And then I would be off and doing things that I should not be doing. I would say, honestly, my biggest risk in relapsing wouldn't be trying to go through a hard time. It would be I'm having the best day ever. And I'm somewhere sunny and things are going good and everything's great. And, some big deal just closed or, something to where life felt really good and I was already kind of riding that natural high. Yeah. And my instinct would tell me, well, we can maybe make that even a little better. Yeah. Let's take it. Let's keep going and see how high we can take this. And so, I've been very grateful. A lot of people come into the program. I'm really, I really look up to the folks that end up relapsing and coming back because it takes a lot of guts to do that. For me, I think I waited long enough to get in that, I just haven't relapsed. And so, by the grace of God, I'm thankful that I'm not there. It's one of the reasons why I still go to meetings every week. It's one of the reasons why I talk openly about my recovery. And it's why I spend time with people who are trying to get sober because, it's one of those things where you only get to keep what you give back. And so that's really important to me to give it back.
So if someone's looking up Celebrate Recovery, that's what you're doing now on Sundays.
Well, our meeting doesn't have a title per se. We call our group "We Are Not Saints." That'll give you some idea. It's a little irreverent. I like. We use the AA Big Book,
So anyone can join your group.
Absolutely, it's an open group for anybody who's interested, men or women who want to stop drinking or using. Yeah, we meet at 8:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings at the State Farm office in South Liberty every single week.
Yeah. And you've been dedicated that for a long time.
Over 20 years.
Okay.
I started that meeting in our car dealership because I thought to myself, how am I going to get sober in a car dealership? It almost, to me, I thought maybe I just have to get out of the car dealership altogether. And so we started that meeting on Sunday mornings in the car dealership, and it started off as a group of car salesmen that wanted to get sober. And then when I got out of the car business, we moved that meeting to another place, and it's been there ever since. So
that's awesome, Gabe. And you guys do a lot of social events, and I'm assuming alcohol is around. Mm-hmm. How do you cope with that too? There are a lot of people still want to go to the Super Bowl, still want to, if they have a drinking problem, they still want to do all these things. But how do you cope with your social gatherings in it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have alcohol in our house. Jan doesn't really drink, but occasionally or whatever, she might have a cocktail or something. But we have people over all the time, and here's the thing. If you want to try to live life and never see alcohol again, good luck. Like you're going to have to go live on the moon or something because it's everywhere. Like everywhere you look is alcohol. Drugs is a little different. Like I talked about opening that portal from the first time I ever did drugs. It was like I had only seen cocaine in movies, and I did cocaine for the first time. And then everyone I knew and everywhere I went, there was cocaine. And from the day I got sober, I've never seen it again. Not one time.
Because you're not thinking about it.
I'm just not in that world. It's like that the portal to hell closed, and I'm not in it anymore. It was like it's gone. It's like it's a whole other dimension than where I live. So I will say we don't really hang out with partiers. Most of our friend group are super into health and doing fun things and traveling and playing pickleball. So I'm surrounded by people today that are doing positive things. If somebody wants to have a drink, that really doesn't bother me. And to be honest with you, like watching somebody who's just a normie, we call them normies. If you're just a normal drinker and you're going to have a couple of beers here and there or whatever. That does not appeal to me whatsoever. Somebody once asked me to describe my version of hell, and I said, tell me that I can have one beer every day or I have to have one beer every day for the rest of my life because there's a trigger that goes off in my brain. If I were to have one drink, that switch would be flipped. And I wouldn't have the choice anymore. Today I have the choice if I want to drink or if I don't want to. If I drink, then I no longer have the choice. I have to drink.
And if you did drink, would you have to start over on day one?
Yeah.
Is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean, I got to start over on day one anyway, though. I mean, the world record for sobriety is 24 hours. So my whole deal is I want to hit the pillow sober tonight. I do it every day, one day at a time. So you don't get sober 5 years, 10 years, 20 years at a time. You get sober one day at a time. And in the beginning, to be honest with you, I got sober sometimes 5 minutes or 1 minute at a time. Like you have to chop the day up into little chunks. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to relapse. If I did, I've said before that I don't know that I have another recovery in me. And part of that isn't because I wouldn't want to come back in, but the way I did it, if I thought I was going to die when I was 28, alcoholism is a progressive disease. It continues even when you're not drinking. And so, at 50 years old, if I started drinking, from 28 to 50, if my disease has progressed, the way I pick up today, I don't know that I would live for more than a couple of days. I would probably kill myself on the first night because I would just consume so much I would die. So
you can't even stop yourself at one. It's you got to have 20.
Yeah, I can't stop myself at 20 either. My dad used to always tell me, and it's funny because my dad was an alcoholic, but he used to always say, well, one's not enough and two's too many. And I would tell him, no, one's not enough and 1,000's not enough.
Yeah.
Like literally drink until I'm passed out on a floor somewhere and physically can't put any more alcohol in my body. So yeah, it's hard to describe addiction and alcoholism. This is one of the reasons why it takes another addict or alcoholic to help those who are still struggling, because it doesn't really make any sense. If drugs and alcohol are ruining your life, then the common sense solution is, well, stop drinking and doing drugs. But that's not really a choice. If that were a choice, more people would make that choice. They're not in control. They don't have that option. And so I'm just one of the lucky ones, I guess, who I got the disease, I got the thing. And for me, abstinence is the only way. There is no other option. So
and that's okay.
Yeah, hey, life is better without it. I honestly don't think that alcohol does anything positive for anyone. I don't think there's any health benefits. I don't think it does anything good for your relationships. It doesn't do good things for your finances.
Right.
I don't think, I think we've kind of been sold a lie. I really do believe that it's a drug, and it's a very, very dangerous drug that kills a lot of people. So, I don't want to make people feel guilty for having a glass of wine here or there, or having a beer or whatever. I mean, you do you. I'm just saying that it in terms of adding anything as a benefit to our culture, I don't believe there is one single thing that it does that's positive.
And like the why me, if you've ever watched movies, like why did this happen to me, or like recently I watched Soul on Fire and he lost his hands in a fire. And then it shows this beautiful life of why me, why me? And I think of you and I think of your beautiful life. Like if you had stuck with alcoholism, you say you won't be alive, but if you did go down that rabbit hole and now you look at why me in a positive way of, you have a good life, you have a wife that loves you.
Yeah, I thought about that before. Yeah. Like, why did I have to be an alcoholic? And being honest with you, I'm really grateful that I am, because it taught me how to ask for help. It led me to a program of recovery that taught me how to cope with life. It led to my closest friendships that I've had. And like I said, every good thing that's come from my life has come from a program of recovery. And I think that the other thing that I haven't touched on is it really gave me purpose. I think that a lot of people think they're searching for happiness when in reality we're looking for a reason for why we're here. And to go through something difficult like that is a hard thing to do. But coming out the other end of it, it made my purpose very, very clear, because I know that I'm one of the only people out there that can help somebody who still struggles with this. And it gave me purpose. And I think it's a great purpose.
It is.
I think it's something that is definitely needed in our world today. And you see the effects of addiction all around us. And just driving through downtown on the way here, you see it. I mean, it's right out in the open, and it's an ugly thing. So, I think that it's really a great thing to know that God kept me alive for a reason.
Yeah.
And it put me on a mission.
Now, you recently posted something about opening up. What is it that you're doing?
Opening up? Oh gosh, I don't know. I've got so many things going on.
And I'm trying to act like I know what I'm talking about. It's not
another business?
Yeah, another adventure of Gabe's, but it's helping men.
Oh yeah. So I'm part of a couple of nonprofits. One of them that's near and dear to my heart. I sit on the board for Valor Mentoring. We're a group. We own the bowling alley in Kaiser and the Grange Hall in Kaiser, and we're opening a new location across from McKay High School. They're kind of open air open access public community centers where we'll do tutoring, or our mentors will meet with mentees. So Valor Mentoring is the name of the nonprofit.
Okay.
The REC is what our facilities are called.
Okay.
But the mentoring organization is it's just a group of guys who are mentoring men of all ages, but it started as young men, so like fifth grade and up. So this is not addiction related, although sometimes that does play in. But I believe that everybody needs a mentor. I believe everybody should be mentored, and eventually they should mentor others. And so I think today we have about 300 mentor-mentee relationships around the city, and we have these centers where we do different activities. There's coffee shops and bowling and all the other things. So we a lot of events and touch a lot of lives through that. So I'm super passionate about from a just how do we make our city better.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the ways to do it. We've said in our when you look at why we do what we do, a lot of it is to counter the effects of fatherlessness, and then just to meet usually young men where they're at, or men of all ages, and just help them to understand how to live a Christ-centered life, and make better decisions. And a lot of the stuff to some of us doesn't sound like a big deal. It's like it just sounds like common sense, but I think everybody could use a little bit of help, and it just gives these guys access to people that they may not otherwise not have access to really put, share some wisdom into their lives and help them get going in the right direction. So that's called Valor Mentoring.
Okay. Because I think sometimes alcoholism, you're bored. People get drunk. And this would give a mentor something. I mean, like if someone wants to go out and be a mentor instead of grabbing the bottle, can they go and be a mentor?
Yeah. So there's, we do background checks and all the other stuff.
I mean, obviously, I don't want a drunk person showing up to be a mentor.
Yeah, it's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for good role models in the community. I think it's really for we're a male mentoring organization, even though all of our programs encompass men and women. We do have connections to female mentors if a gal wants to be part of that group. Yeah, we have ways to connect them with, but we're looking for people who have
solid background,
solid people. A lot of us are business owners or just leaders in the community.
Yeah.
Somebody that's been around the block a few times and has some wisdom to share, and that just has a heart for wanting to help our young men grow up in this crazy world that we live in.
We sure do. And where do they get this information? How can they?
They can go to valormentoring.com and you can sign up. You can donate to us. You can get involved. You can sign up as a mentor. We have a whole mentor training program and things that we go through. And it's really not a huge obligation. You try to mentor for an hour or two a week.
And that means a lot to a young person
and I will say, I've said this more than once. I think that sometimes it's as or more valuable to the mentor than it is to the mentee. It's a super rewarding experience, just like what I'm doing in recovery to help somebody get sober. Helping these guys make it through life is also very super rewarding. So we would love to have people join us. It's a really great thing we got going, and we just plan on doing more.
Yeah. Well, Gabe, thank you so much for being in the seat today.
Thanks for having me on, Tanya. It's been fun.
You did a good job. It's 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I could keep going.
You're supposed to fist bump me right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Disclaimer: the information shared on this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It is not medical, psychological, or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making changes to your health, mindset, or lifestyle. You are responsible for your own decisions, actions, and results. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and always do what's best for you.